What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a very special guest. I have Matt here with me from the Greatness Everyday YouTube channel. Say what's up, Matt.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for having me, Ty.
Yeah, of course, man. We definitely have been planning this interview for a while, so I'm glad I finally get you on the channel. Get to know you some more. Get you some more exposure to a different audience and everything. So I'm glad you found the time to come onto the channel.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Glad we made it happen.
Yeah, of course. So we're gonna wait probably like a few seconds, a minute probably, to
Mhm.
get a few people on here. But in the meantime, we were just talking earlier. You're from Canada, right?
So I'm from the east coast of Canada. New Brunswick is the province, I guess, and just kind of right on the Atlantic Ocean, basically. So bordering Maine, I guess, for all the American viewers. Uh,
Right.
yeah.
How old are you, by the way?
Yeah, so I'm 27, 27 years old. I am a high school teacher, so it's been interesting for me to kind of jump back into the school environment. But I'm a high school teacher who runs Greatness Every Day and a few other, I guess, side projects just kind of on the side on the weekends. Throughout the summer, I really kind of focus down and double down on that stuff. And 27, as young as that seems, some days it feels young, some days it feels old.
Right. And I'm only 20, so I could only imagine how that feels, you know?
Yeah.
You're still you're still super young, but you're at the age where people are calling you old and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like I remember being around some of my students a few years ago, and one of the students was talking about how her camera was so old and it was a digital camera. And the reason it was so old was because it didn't have rechargeable batteries. You had to put real like double A batteries in. And that was
Right.
her, that was old because you had to put batteries in it rather than just plug it in and it recharges. So
Uh,
that was, I think, the first ever like I feel old moment. I was probably 24 at the time.
oh, geez.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten a few of those with like, oh my gosh, these kids are already doing that. I'm so old and whatever. But
Yeah. No, I hear
I
you.
think I think I'll get to that point.
Yeah.
But let's get into this talk. You already mentioned who you were a little bit, where you're from, and everything. But generally speaking, for the people who don't know you, for the people watching, who are you and what do you do?
All right. So for people that just joined us, my name is Matt Wheaton. 27 years old from Canada. Basically, what I do is I am running. I don't even really know what to call it. Like a social media pages, let's say, um, a social media page that I started called Greatness Every Day. And what that essentially is trying to do is it's trying to challenge myself and document kind of the challenge that I have for myself and challenge other people and create a community that challenges people to live their best life. At the end of their life, at the end of my life for sure, I want to be able to say that I've done everything I could to live my greatest life, my best life, a fulfilled life. And really kind of documenting the challenge that I have made to myself. Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if you know Gary V, he talks a lot about kind of documenting versus creating. So that's one thing I'm doing through this medium, documenting the challenge to myself to be a better person, to be better with my money, to be a better person just in general, in so many different aspects. And but at the same time, creating a community that supports each other and encourages each other and builds each other up is kind of what the focus behind Greatness Every Day is. The tagline is real people living great lives. And essentially for me, it's more important to focus on the real people, the fact that we're able to sit and be connected through the internet right now, um, and talk about things like personal development and whatever else we want to talk about. That proves that we're real people rather than somebody that has millions of dollars and um, so many things that they can do with their money and they have access to anything they want, right? We can focus on building our relationships. We can focus on improving our time management. We can focus on using our money better. So really kind of focusing on the practical things, I guess, that the everyday person can do to make themselves turn into something that's a little bit greater than just kind of going through the motions day in and day out.
Awesome, awesome. That's perfect. Well, nice to finally officially meet you. Well, I guess virtually meet you anyways.
Sounds good.
But,
Likewise.
right, right. Awesome. Thanks. So, when did you, you spoke a little bit about personal development, and I get that's the sense of what you're all about is personal development. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say for sure.
Okay, awesome. So, for you, when did you start your personal development journey? Like, when did it all begin for you when you had that like clicking moment in your head?
Yeah. So I, there's something prior to Greatness Every Day, actually, which I didn't mention, but it started last August, and I've always been interested in kind of like challenging myself as I've gone through life, and kind of asking those deeper questions like why are we here and all this other stuff. Um, but I'd say kind of like the defining focus for me to kind of start acting on these things, and starting like an Instagram page, and kind of developing that community was last August when it kind of came about because I was out for a bike ride.
So fairly recent.
Yeah, yeah, fairly recent. Um, I was out for a bike ride and I came pretty close to having a collision with a truck. It was 2 feet away. So it sounds like it was life or death. It wasn't. But it was just a moment that was like, wow, that could have been really bad for me. And at the same time, there's just a lot going on. And I'm just like, man, you have so much to be grateful for. Like, why are you kind of like moping around after that ride in the morning? I went home and I was just kind of like sitting there, bummed out, didn't do anything that whole day. I'm like, you're a few weeks away from going back to work. And it's like, why are you just wasting the day here? Like, you have so much to be grateful for. So that spun into like this kind of challenging myself to really kind of be aware of all that I have to be grateful for. And I've challenged myself on that in the past, through travel. Traveling is a great way to kind of challenge your beliefs, and really open your eyes to how much we have here in North America for sure. Um, so like last August would be the defining moment, and I started something called gratitude every day. So just kind of what I'm doing now, essentially, with the whole focus of gratitude and recognizing the things that we have to be thankful for in our lives. Um, and that spun into talking about a couple different things. And I started a podcast after I started the Instagram page. And with gratitude every day, I just found that I wanted to talk about more topics. I wanted to talk about other things, including personal development. So that's when I underwent like a rebranding stage, basically. And that January 1st of this year, of 2018, I really kind of changed it. I stopped it and I rebranded into Greatness Every Day, with the whole premise again of challenging people to live their greatest life, talking about gratitude, which I talk about a lot, and I'm learning a lot about it, and I'm challenging myself in those areas. But then also talking about what other area I want to talk about, really.
Awesome. So I think I hear a similarity in a lot of people's reasons as to why they start doing the things they're doing that have a turning point in their life. And it's usually very traumatic or like an eye opening experience, whereas you were close to death. And, as much as as much as you could say, like, oh, it was a few feet away, like,
Right.
still, like, that few feet could have determined your life,
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy to think about something like that, but I hear it a lot. It's like people don't want to change until their life is at stake,
Right.
and not everyone does that, of course, but the majority of people, when their life comes into question or like something happens to them, it's like, oh shoot, like this is serious. Like I need to start changing. And I think there's a few people I've interviewed on here who said they had mental problems that could have cost their life. No, not mental problems. Sorry, physical health problems that could have cost their life, and that was a very eye-opening experience that helped them to start on their journey. So, all respect to you, my man. Keep doing what you're doing, and I really like the gratitude and the gratefulness that you're expressing, because that's very important. You never know when your life can be taken away. Like a perfect
Yeah.
example with you, that could have been the end all for you, but it wasn't, and now you're taking advantage of it in a very awesome and positive way. So again, all my respect.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And like I said, like that incident happened and I kind of stopped for a little bit and kept riding afterwards. I had to get home somehow and I was riding. I was like, wow, I was very lucky in that
Right.
instance. And I wasn't even on Instagram before that. And it was pretty quick afterwards, like when I started thinking about kind of challenging myself to identify the things that I'm grateful for. It was pretty quick afterwards. I'm like, well, if I'm grateful for these things, like why not start a community where people encourage each other and challenge each other to be as well? And it was just seemed like a good fit, and I've been really happy with how it's grown so far. Yeah, but I
Right.
agree with you. Like sometimes, unfortunately, it takes a major event to cause that change. It'd be a lot better if we all realized that when we just simply opened our eyes, which is a major event in so many ways. If we just opened our eyes every day and recognized that.
Right. Which will lead me into my next question. But whoever is watching right now, for the people that we got on right now, this is Matt from the Greatness Everyday YouTube channel. I want to make sure that you guys go and subscribe to his channel. It is the first link in the description. You can also go follow him on Instagram. He's more active on his Instagram, but making a comeback here on YouTube. So make sure to give him a subscribe over there. Make sure to give him a follow on Instagram. Both links are in the description. Make sure to do that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course, my man, always. And that's what leads me into my next question is, when did you start figuring out that you wanted to serve others, that you wanted to help people and help them understand the information that you understood?
Well, that's an interesting one because I think that naturally, maybe it's just something that I've always been drawn to. I'm a high school teacher. That's largely what I do. Uh, and I love that job. I love that job day in and day out, working with the students, challenging them to be better, challenging myself to learn each and every day. I learn so much from them. Um, I don't necessarily think that it's like a lot of the stuff that I talk about in my videos on YouTube, for example, like somebody could find that information out somewhere. Um, I think that as these mediums on Instagram and YouTube and the podcast, I'm really enjoying the podcast. Um, Podcast is actually probably my favorite for whatever reason, because people can consume it while they're going for a walk or so many other things. They don't have to watch a video. But the podcast has really allowed me to kind of talk about some other topics. And I started that last November. It was the first time I podcast. I podcasted for the whole month of November, and that grew very quickly, faster than anything.
Nice.
And then that started challenging me to be really like, okay, we need to step this up more. So then I kept it going throughout the school year, but then in the summer, I've been podcasting every day, calling it the Summer of Greatness kind of series. And I've been podcasting every day. And my defining moment, it's evolved, and that's been something I'm really happy. It's kind of, I didn't necessarily know why I was doing all this stuff, to be honest. I felt like I should. Now I have a much better idea, and some of the answers that are questions that I've had are now being answered, and I'm starting to figure out why I felt like I should be doing these things. I don't fully understand it completely, but as it's going, it's kind of revealing the answers to me um, as I've been going. So it's like there's not maybe one defining moment, but if I look at when I started things, to I look at when the podcast started, and I look at now that I'm kind of stepping up my game on videos for YouTube, it's kind of been like there's been like multiple moments in time that have all kind of revealed like something good happens. And then it's like, okay, this is why people send me a message. And I'm sure you get this too. Like people send you a message thanking you or saying like, I'm really finding value in what you're talking about. Like
Yeah, it's the best.
then there's another one. It is the best. And unless you've experienced that, like you don't know. But when somebody says like, man, like this video really helped me, or this description that you wrote under a quote really kind of spoke to me like word for word, it's like, man, like there's just so many defining moments, like almost daily, which is great. Not necessarily people messaging you each day, but people just going at you, encouraging you, thanking you, and things like that. It's just so there's been many times. I can't pinpoint one for sure,
Mm,
but I'm thankful that those times have all kind of happened, and as they happen, they reinstate kind of why I'm doing this stuff for sure.
right.
It's not for the likes, it's not for the comments, it's not for the whatever like analytics you want to talk about on any social media platform. It's 100%. I put the stuff out there. I trust that the people that need to see it will see it. Whether that's 20 people see it, whether that's 1,000 people see it. I trust that whatever I'm writing, whatever I'm talking about, I trust that those are the people that are going to need it. They're going to learn something from it. They're going to find value in it, and I don't worry about the rest of the stuff. I let it all kind of take its own path.
Right. And I love that attitude. And I think that's something I adopted myself as well. Whereas the people who need my message will see it when it is best relevant in their life.
Right.
Like how you said, whether it's 20 people or 1,000 people, it doesn't matter as long as you are affecting someone's life in a positive way.
Mhm.
So I love that attitude. And you were saying you had a podcast. Where can people find your podcast if they're audio listeners?
Oh, great. Appreciate that. So the podcast is called Greatness Every Day, obviously, and you can find that so many different places. Apple Podcasts, you can find it. You can find it on Google Play Music. You can find it on the Anchor app, Spotify now, and that's huge, I think. I really think the fact that you can find the Greatness Everyday podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play Music is huge. Stitcher and a bunch of other platforms, but those three are huge to me, including the Anchor app to make it out for Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play Music. I mean, all the big podcasting platforms for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're all over the place, huh?
Yeah. Trying to be at least.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. And on your podcast, is it usually just you by yourself speaking, or do you have a guest on?
Yeah, so far it's all been myself. I've talked to a few people to come in and like be a guest appearance. I've done one guest appearance on a podcast. I'd like to do more of that stuff. I'm currently moving, so now once I get set up, I have a little bit more space that I can kind of set aside for that. And I'd hope to have some people on for sure. And I'm very excited about that. And basically, the podcasts all work through and are usually related to our Instagram post for the day,
Awesome.
or a YouTube video. So everything kind of works together and complements each other. And the podcasting, when I get people on, will definitely be a guest for an episode, and it will actually also be an interview kind of similar to this, just done through podcasts as well,
Nice.
because we all have so many cool stories. There's so many cool people doing awesome things in their lives. And again, like you just want to document that, bring the positivity, show and highlight that.
Absolutely. And speaking of YouTube, how long have you been on YouTube?
I think that when I started in January, I put out a few videos, let's say like
January of this year?
videos. January of this year, I put out a few videos. And then it wasn't until the end of June, just a month ago and a bit, that I made videos. And I probably made 10 or 12 videos in a month. Really kind of, now that I had some time I invested some money into things like a teleprompter, which is for any creators out there. Like I bought a $300 teleprompter, It's probably the best money I've spent in anything definitely related to this stuff, because like when I've done some stuff like online courses that I've created and stuff for another thing, another platform, and it takes a long time for me. I'm not good on camera. I'm not one of those people that can just sit down and talk. I don't find I am.
Yeah.
So when I did that online course, which is something like 36 lectures, it took me a long time to think about what I was going to say it and mess up 20 times every take. And then I have to go through and edit that. But a teleprompter, for example, I write the script out, I say it, I'm done. 10 minutes. If it's a 10-minute video, there's like no no editing to do. And it's great. So like, something like that, a simple tool like that has been able to allow me to pump out so many more videos. And for me, 10 videos in a month is very good. For some people, that's normal. But I've been working hard at it this summer.
Right. And you're already almost at 200 subscribers, aren't you?
I think so, yeah. So that's really kind of started growing here over the past month since I've started uploading. And
Yeah, that's amazing. It took me almost 2 years to hit 200
wow,
subscribers.
wow, yeah,
So it took like I just hit 200 subscribers this year at the beginning of the year. I hit my first 200.
nice. And now
And
you're flying.
yeah, man, I definitely made it a goal and priority to build this channel as best and as fast as I can.
Awesome.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
crushing it. Keep doing it. The end of the year is going to be good to see where you're at, man.
absolutely. It's when I hit my first 1,000, which will be by the end of August. My next goal will to be to get another 1,000 by the end of the year.
Nice. That's good. That's awesome. Make it happen.
Absolutely. So we know what you're about. Tell us a little bit about what your channel is about.
All right. So, greatness every day is all about challenging people to live a great life, but that's a complicated topic, obviously. So, some of the topics we've talked about um, on all our platforms are things like one of the just personal development, for example. Sometimes we go through the week and Thursday, just with common hashtags, Thankful Thursday. I really try to focus, if I can, on gratitude on Thursdays, because it's a really good focus. People are kind of, it's a schedule. People kind of expect it then. So one of the things I've talked about are things that have to be grateful for. Personally, and this ties into so many areas of personal development. I now do a journal. I do a gratitude journal, and I never did a journal in my whole life. Like, I'm not one of those people. But I've been telling people about gratitude journals. I've been gifting gratitude journals to people. People have gone through and taken my recommendation and got a gratitude journal. Like, it's really been cool to see myself and how I've changed through doing a gratitude journal each and every day. And then kind of see how it's trickling down through the community and people I know and people I don't know. So Thursdays, for example, maybe that's what we talk about, or throughout the week. One of the things that's really been kind of an important issue for me this year, and I don't know why, is money. Just kind of focusing on how I can use my money better. And because money, unfortunately, in some ways, has a big role to play in our lives. It's never something that I've struggled with. I've been always been pretty good with my money, but I really want to challenge myself in terms of how far my money can go and how I use it. So I developed a budget at the start of this year. Um, Today is August 1st. It's a big day for me. I'm starting to write a book.
Nice.
This month, I'm just kind of challenging myself to write an ebook, just explaining the budget. It's a budget for specifically millennials, so people like us, that have a chance to really get ahead. Like, a lot of times people don't start thinking about how they use their money until they're 35, or some in their 30s, and they have a lot of debt and a lot of things to pay for. But I'm like, if you can get ahead of that, personally, if we can get ahead of that stuff, like, we're going to be so far ahead of people. So that's looking at areas of like, what are our needs? What do we need to spend money on personal development for? Do we donate a fraction of that money? Do we save a fraction of that money? And a lot of other things, and then investing. So like those are kind of like 5 areas that I've really been focusing on this year and learning a lot about and challenging myself. So that's another topic that we talk about: personal development and things like fitness. I love sports. I've been in sports my whole life. I'm always physically active. That's important. If I'm not exercising, then I'm not going to be at the best, like at my best each and every day. If I'm not getting enough sleep, my latest video is the 7 tips to better sleep. And we were reading through. Another thing we do as part of the podcast is we have a book club, Greatness Everyday Book Club. We've gone through the first book, which is Make Your Bed. I don't know if that's all like simple productivity, time management things you can do.
Right.
Read. We're currently reading the book called The Ripple Effect, looking at how to move better, think better, eat better, and sleep better. So our last video was talking about sleep and how that leads to a great life. And I gave the 7 tips to better sleep that the book talks about. So like, there's really nothing that's not potentially going to be something we talk about. A big thing is relationships, like family relationships, romantic relationships, whatever type of relationship, relationships with people you don't know, and just pass them on the street, but you want to leave a positive impact on their life. Like, what steps can we do? What stuff can we do? Rather than just kind of going through the motions of our day. So nothing is off the table. It's all there. We'll see.
Awesome. And I love a lot of what you speak about. And I found a little bit of the personal development. Oh, no, the personal, the financial education. And I found that very interesting and helpful. And I really love the way you present your videos. It's definitely like a teacher, but it's like, I don't know how to explain it. I think it's due to your lighting in the background. It's very bright, and the way you speak is very welcoming. I'm not sure if that's because you're a teacher and you know how to you do that. You've been doing that with people for years and years. But I really like the way you present your videos and how they're made.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And like, being on camera, to be honest, is probably one of the things that I don't like. It's not something that's natural for me.
Really?
I would much rather be in front of a group of people. And I've never been a teacher that just stands and talks to people. I don't think, as a science teacher, I don't think that's what my students want. As a math teacher, I don't think that's what they want. But yeah, definitely, obviously, being in front of people helps you out a lot for sure. And I have to say one thing, because I probably should have said this before, like with this whole greatness everyday page, and then coming back to like challenging real people to live great lives, so many things that have come up. Like if you were to check out the hashtag greatness, I don't know what you'd find, but when I look at the students that I teach and I talk to them about things like, oh, what's a great life? Or you check out the hashtag greatness. I mean, greatness as defined by so many people is super fancy, souped up cars, like being the life of the party, and like nice Rolex watches or something even better than that. And like those things are cool. Like those things are great. Like, yeah, but like there's so much more to living a great life than just those things. So that's kind of where we've all going, and I'm examining that and challenging myself to that as well. So wanted to mention that where I didn't really kind of pick up on that earlier.
No worries. Thanks for pointing it out. And I wanted to know, where did you get the name? How did you come up with it? And why? So where, how, and why did you come up with the name Greatness Everyday?
All right. So I think it probably started with the fact that it was initially called Gratitude Every Day, because we have things to be thankful every day. And then when it changed into Greatness Every Day, I mean, it's still a daily activity. We wake up, we want to live our best life. So we just have to focus on that day. You want to be great, you live a great day. And then you go to bed, you wake up, you do it the next day. So it's repetitive, it continues every day. And why? I can't say that I'm a huge fan of the name. Um, I don't know why I'm not. There's something about it that I'm not. Maybe it's just because I haven't developed it entirely into kind of what I am really happy with. I'm happy with what we've done so far, but I really want to establish more of a community. Um, so that would probably be where the name came from. And why? I think it's easy. If people see it in the tagline, then they understand what we're about. Um, so that's what I'd say, definitely where the name came from. Sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing because I'm focusing on putting content out, and it's like, oh, there's so much to do in the run of a day and trying to get it all done. It's like, why did I ever name this thing Greatness Every Day instead of Greatness Weekly or Greatness Monthly? It's like, man, you're forcing. If
Uh,
I don't get something out there, I feel like
that's hilarious.
it's true.
Greatness Monthly. Hey, I think greatness every day is just like a general a general saying. To be honest, when I first heard it, I didn't put into account that you were, posting every day or uploading however many times you upload on YouTube. But
Yeah,
I do notice that you do post every day on Instagram.
yeah.
So I didn't even notice how your name fit into who you are as a person. I didn't even pick up on that. But now that you mention it, that's awesome. So it literally is greatness every day.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a curse, but trying to get it out there for sure.
Hey man, it makes you super consistent, disciplined, and you always have your community. You're always providing something for your community, which is an amazing thing because not a lot of people can do that. And to be able to post daily and always giving out positivity and always giving out encouragement, that takes a lot of energy, and that takes a lot of energy from you. So it just goes to show like how much you're giving back and how much you're sharing with others. So that's commitment, man. That's tough. So I give you a lot of respect for that.
Appreciate that. I'm really interested in the long term here. I know that, I mean, people that create content, like if we focus on the short term, it can be easy to get discouraged. I'm new to this game. I started an Instagram page just a few months ago, really. So I'm learning a lot. And but for me, I've always been interested in the long term and that long game, and really kind of if I focused on the ins and outs and the how many people like this page and post and how many people commented on it, then like you can get discouraged, especially with all the changes that YouTube and Instagram's making. Like
Right.
it can be super easy to get discouraged. But when you look at in 2 months how much you've grown, if you look at in 6 months how much you've grown, you look at a year, 2, 3 years, like I'm interested in the long game and really kind of building it up, which is good. And it's good to see, like you talked about kind of your goal, how it took you a long time to get a certain number of subscribers. And then all of a sudden this year, it's like, boom, it took off. And then
Right.
you're not even at that next goal, but you've got that other one. And that's awesome to see. Somebody talked about, I think it's Freedom Influencer on YouTube. Um, he talked about the analogy of like life as a YouTuber, as a bamboo tree, a bamboo shoot. And basically, supposedly, and this is what he talked about in the video, it takes like 5 years of care and like consistent care for that bamboo tree and watering and stuff like that before you even see anything above ground.
Really.
Once it gets above ground, it just shoots right up. And it's
Right.
crazy. Like it's such a great analogy. And like you're seeing that, you're starting that right now. Um, but that's the long term, just to be able to consistently grind out when you're tired or you don't have anything or you don't want to, or there's something better to do,
Right.
consistently stick through it. And then 5 years time, when that bamboo shoot's going up, like it's beautiful.
Right. And I think something, now that you mention that, I think something for me is that I've always loved doing this. I never find that what I'm doing is a burden, cuz or like, oh, I have to do this right now cuz I want my viewers to see it, this and that, like I want to keep my count up, whatever. That's never crossed my mind. I do this when I want
Hmm.
because I love to do it. And I the reason why I'm so consistent is because I just love to do it. You know what I mean? And I never think about the numbers. Obviously, I have goals of where I see the numbers going, but that's never um, my main focus. My main focus is first off doing what I love, and
Mm.
second off serving. So if I'm doing those two things, it's like I never run out of ideas. I always have content to produce. I always have the same energy because it's just muscle memory. It's natural, and I never find it unless I'm physically incapable, mentally incapable. I will continue to do what I do because it's just something I enjoy.
Yeah, and another topic that I've really been thinking about a lot this year, more so recently in the past month or two, is the idea of passion versus purpose, right? So if I have the idea of passion, maybe this greatness everyday thing is my passion. Well, when things get hard and when I'm tired and stuff like that, eventually that's probably going to falter. Whereas if I think it's my purpose, and like I said, when I started this and even currently, like I never knew exactly why I should start it. I just felt like I should. And then those answers have been revealed to me as I've been going through. And then that's more of a purpose where, like you said, you create because you want to, you're driven to do it and stuff like that. And you're trusting that the people that will see what you put out. So that's an interesting balance, something I've been thinking about lately and still trying to kind of figure out and challenge myself.
Awesome. Um, so, if you have any, what are your long-term goals with YouTube?
Yeah.
And actually, let's throw Instagram in there as well because I know you're more active on Instagram, but you're starting to become more active on YouTube. So, if you have any long-term goals for both platforms, hey, throw your podcast in there as well.
Sure.
Long-term goals for social media podcasts in general. What are they?
Yeah. So my long-term goals would definitely be to establish more of a community, like I've said, rather than just me putting content out and a few people like engaging with it. I would really love to see, um, and I don't know how it would necessarily look, but I would really love to see that when content is put out, like there's just a community where people encourage each other and build each other up and challenge each other rather than um, kind of. I mean, so many times on social media, it's so easy for somebody to see something and make a comment that is mean or something like that. There's just anonymity and there's so many other things to it. But there's so much power in social media when you can see the potential for positivity and challenging people. Like, so I'd really love to focus on that and build that. I don't have necessarily number goals. Um, just continue to grow things again over the long term. So just continue to grow things as it goes up, and just continue that again. That community is established for the next little bit. Still posting on Instagram every day, and Instagram is probably our main platform that I use to kind of connect everything back into. Although YouTube is a huge focus for me, as well as the podcast. Um, I believe that podcasting is going to grow big time in the next few years. Just again, because it's audio, you can and consume it while doing
I
other things.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's going to be huge. And my podcast has already seen like, especially that first month when I started, I think I got like 25,000 downloads in a month. And I was like, whoa,
Jeez.
like now we're talking like this is, I don't even know like where these people are listening from, but it's just cool to see the numbers, um, which was huge, way higher than anything I've got on Instagram or YouTube. I would really love to make my video on YouTube a focus for sure. So that's why I spent a lot of time in the month of July really focusing on that, and just continue doing that. And really, that's where it's at. Those three kind of all complement each other, and that's the only reason I'm doing three of them. If they didn't complement each other, if it was like I was making stuff for Instagram and making stuff for the podcast and making stuff for YouTube, then that probably wouldn't be sustainable. It'd take a lot of energy and time and stuff like that. But where there's some relation to them, it's different, but they're all related. It's a little bit easier for me to do that. How sustainable is it during the school year when there's a lot of other commitments for me? I'm not sure, but that's something I'm going to look at. So again, just kind of keep things growing and building that idea of community.
Nice. I love it. So, I think I missed a question. No. Oh, right here. So what else are you doing besides YouTube? I know you said you were a teacher,
Mhm.
but you can go a little in depth on that as well. You being a teacher, what else do you do besides obviously your YouTube channel, your Instagram, and yeah,
What else do I do? I right now I'm coaching a soccer camp through our university.
yeah,
That explains the very nice sunburn that I have. I've been out on the turf for the whole week, and it's been super hot here, super sunny, and it's hard to stay out of the sun. So I coach. I coach volleyball, soccer, cross country, and track and field. So I'm very involved in coaching. For me personally, it's been a way for me to give back to my community where I gained so much. I had so many volunteers growing up that coached me or did other things. So it's just a way as I've returned and moved back to my community that I'm able to help and give back. Something simple that I really enjoy and I get a lot out of. So that's one thing I do. I am involved. I play soccer. I something that has really been interesting for me over the past few years is I race long distance triathlon, so like half Ironmans and such. So that's something I really enjoy to do, but it's very selfish. It's a very selfish sport in terms of the amount of time you have to spend training, the amount of money you have to invest in it, things like that. Like there's a lot of money there that people spend. There's in travel and equipment and things like that. So last year I actually had an injury, which really had to force me to step back and not race for the year and look at kind of everything related to the sport. And that's really prior to that, I never really noticed how selfish of a sport it was because you're spending 4 or 5 hours every day training for about 6 to 8 months if you're really focused on your race. And then, so like giving my time and energy has been something I've really focused on lately. I'm not training for that this year because of that injury. And now I'm just kind of getting healthy again, being involved, being active, increasing fitness and things like that. And then maybe I'll look at considering doing that next year and after. But I love that stuff. So that's something that I really enjoy. Just getting involved in our school community. Being in a small town, it's a lot easier to do. I live in a small university town, one high school where everybody knows each other and such. So it's a good spot to be if you want to get involved and be there.
right. What kind of injury did you get?
So is a weird injury is a I've never had any injuries really growing up playing sports at university throughout high school. Is plantar fasciitis and heel spurs, kind of a weird injury because there's like two injuries in my left foot. Um,
Oh
and
wow.
training for a race in August, and I started in January, and I got injured cross country skiing of all things. So during the winter here in Canada, we have a lot of snow. I love it. So one of the ways I was trying to stay in shape was ski a lot, and it just kind of happened that I got this injury, which I don't think cross country skiing is a sport you get injuries in, but I got one, and but that really forced me to like in the morning, basically when I woke up, I could barely walk. I couldn't put any weight on my foot, and that lasted for like 8 months. It lasted for a very long time. Um,
Jeez.
yeah, and something so simple like your feet are so important to you, right? Like it wasn't a major injury, but it was like I could barely walk when I got up in the morning, and it was painful
Right.
to run. I couldn't bike, and all that stuff you need to be able to do when you're racing a triathlon. So something like your feet you take for granted, but then again, when you don't have them, you don't have the use of them. uh,
Mm.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow, interesting. There's something you said at, oh, we were in the chat. Someone asked, any books you recommend? I already read the ones in your description. So they're asking me, but I want to know, that was gonna actually be my next question.
Mm-hmm.
All-time favorite books.
All right. Well, this is a good one because I've talked about on my station that really I don't read. I used to read
Really?
a lot. Like growing up, I used to read a lot. Like couldn't get me out of a book. Sports and reading was what I really liked to do a lot when I was in middle school, for example. Then when I hit high school, I read and then I stopped. And from there until probably the start of this year, and even later than this year, actually, um, to be honest, I read for information. I read for school what I had to. I I read whatever I had to do, but I never read for pleasure. I never read for personal development. Never read outside of just reading for information. Um, and then this year, kind of looking at ways to challenge myself, we started that Greatness Everyday Book Club. We're on our second book right now, but I've read a couple books this year, and I've got a big list. So I'm into reading now, big time, and I'm really excited about that. The first book that I read was a very simple book. It's called Make Your Bed. It's written by Admiral William H. McRaven. He was a guy, Navy SEAL, that did a commencement speech or a graduation speech at the University of Texas. And there's like 10 chapters in the book, super easy read, but it's basically simple things that you can do immediately in your life, and it will make a huge change and shift in your life. Simple things like the book's called Make Your Bed. So, for example, he says the first thing you should do in the morning when you wake up is make your bed. You get a task done, you're driven, you have purpose, and that creates kind of like the foundation for the rest of your day to going ahead
Right.
and getting stuff done. The book we're reading right now is called The Ripple Effect, like I said before. It's written by Dr. Greg Wells, and he's a exercise physiologist and as well as a professor. And that book looks at how to, again, simple things that you can impact in your life, that you can eat better, sleep better, move better, and think better. Um, a few other books that I have here, I purchased Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. So Gary V.
Nice.
Yep. And
I
I've
heard
been
that
listening
one
to
was
that.
great.
Yeah, on audiobook, actually. I've been listening to that. I have the actual physical copy, but I've read a few books. I'm reading The Ripple Effect right now, so I'm not wanting to read anymore, but I'm listening to it on audiobook, and that I'm consuming that and soaking it in. I'm really interested in seeing some other audiobooks here in the future. I just finished reading The Five Love Languages. For anybody that it's written by Dr. Gary Chapman.
The Five Love Languages.
Five love languages. Man, for anybody that's in a relationship or wants to be in a relationship or wants to just have better relationships with people, like it is unreal. It's so simple, so practical, but like when I was reading it, I was connecting the dots to stuff in the past, and I'm like, wow, this is a game changer. I wish I had seen this like 10 years ago. Just talk. Oh man, it's such a good book. I think everybody should have to read it. It's really
I have
good.
to pick up a copy.
Yeah, and like I never thought that it would be a book that I would want to read or anything like that, or be interested in reading it. And I purchased it and I read it in 2 days, and it was like, wow,
Wow.
it's a game changer for sure. And then the other book that I bought is Unshakable by Tony Robbins. Again, just kind of looking at
Oh, I heard that one was really good too. I need to get that.
yeah, so those are kind of the 5 books that I have right now that I've read already. I've talked to a few mentors of mine and had 4 more recommendations here for you. So I'm giving you a lot here, so hopefully people find value in it. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a very popular one.
Yes, I'm reading that right now. It's so
Yep,
amazing.
Stephen Covey, I think, right?
Yeah, I love it so far.
I picked it up in the bookstore, and I picked up the 5 love languages as well, and then I put that one down to get 5 love languages, and I said, I'll be back for this one. So I know I will. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Read that one.
Popular one. That's one that I'm going to be tackling soon. A very successful business person has represented to me, like we're talking huge international success, has represented and recommended, sorry, Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. And it's a story, I think Shoe Dog by Phil Knight talks about, he was maybe a designer for Nike and how Nike kind of all started up and things like that. Not sure, don't quote me on that, but he recommended that one. And then just a few nights ago, this is more of a philosophical book recommendation, was Walden Pond.
Walden Pond.
Walden Pond, yeah, by Thoreau, I believe. I don't know much about it. That's just a book recommendation that somebody has recommended to me, just supposedly talking about kind of what do you need in life? Like, what are the basic needs that you have? So something very simple, but those are some of the books that I'm going to be looking into for the next little bit. Again, not somebody that has so much reading, extensive knowledge in terms of books and authors and stuff like that. But now that I'm into it again, it's like I can't get enough. I'm just consuming it, consuming it, consuming it. So
Right.
yeah, hopefully those help.
Yeah, definitely. I put all of them in the chat. So for the people watching right now or the ones watching the replay, make sure to check out those books in the chat and pick up a copy if you'd like. I also have a few books in the description, books that will help you succeed, in my opinion. I have Money Master the Game, 7 Simple Steps to Financial Freedom, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, and The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Powerful Lessons and Personal Change. So if you guys want to pick up a copy of that book, you're more than welcome to click the link in the description. You can buy your own on Amazon. You're more than welcome to pick up a copy anywhere online at the bookstore of any of the books that Matt mentioned. We have Walden Pond, Shoe Dog, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Unshakable by Tony Robbins, The 5 Love Languages, which I'm definitely going to get a copy of.
Hugely recommend. Hugely recommend.
Hugely recommended, yes. Crushing It by Gary Vee, and Make Your Bed. So if you're into reading or you want any personal development books to read, there is an entire long list for you. So Matt, we're coming close to the end, but I have the last few questions for you, and they're pretty serious, pretty deep questions that make you think. So here's the first one. What are your top 3 major life goals? As of right now, anyways.
Yeah.
Because we all know they'll change in the future, of course, but what are your top 3 major life goals right now?
I don't even know if I have 3. I mean, to be honest, like having a family has always been something that's very important to me. I've grown up in a close family. I'm very thankful for the family that I've grown up in. So going along with that and getting married and having kids, if I'm blessed with that, for sure, and just developing a family unit that's close is something that's very important to me. Definitely a priority of mine at this time of my life right now, for sure. So that would be the first one. It's hard because professionally, as I said, I'm a teacher. I spent some time living in the Caribbean teaching at a wonderful school, a school I loved a lot. But I needed something different professionally in terms of to continue to challenge myself each and every day. So I had to leave a place that I loved, a community that I loved, friends that everything in the situation was great. I just felt professionally I had to kind of do something that challenged me more, let's say. So professional goals are there for sure. As a teacher, I really value my job. I love my job. There's not a day that I don't go to school that I'm excited. I teach science and math for high school. And I would say continue to challenge myself professionally in terms of how I can interact with our students better, how I can make a real life situation kind of bring that into the classroom for them, because so often for high school, it can be difficult to see the value in what you're doing. Um, there's a lot of in social media right now. It's like school never taught me anything, which I agree. Some of that is valid, and at the same time, some of it we need to do better job, kind of integrating real life scenarios, real life situations, um, in preparing our students for the real world. So kind of focusing on professional goals that I have, like how can I improve my teaching? How can I, um, again, create lessons and situations that prepare our students for the real world, whether that's
Right.
academic or just as important are the non-academic things, just teaching people how to be good people.
Right.
So that would be a goal of mine. And a third goal, just to continue developing greatness every day, because I really I don't know kind of where this is going. I feel
Right.
good about it. I feel positive about it. Uh, I feel like there's a reason and a purpose behind it. So just kind of, let's say, finding the purpose and discovering the purpose of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And real quick to touch up on the thing you're saying about school, I agree what you were saying, and I also think that teachers don't get enough credit for what they do. You know, they're pretty much a big part in how a child is developed, how a young person is developed, and that is something that not a lot of people can do. So, for one, I think teachers don't get enough credit that they deserve. And two, I think just in general, how curriculums are set up, I think the curriculum that's being taught is probably at least 100 years old. You know what I mean? In general, in most school systems anyway. So I don't think the problem is the teachers. I think the problem is just the information that's being shared or what's being told that needs to be taught to kids. You know,
Mhm.
I think I know a ton of great teachers. You know, at first when I first started, I hated teachers. Like, oh, they don't teach us this, they don't teach us that, blah blah blah. But what I come to understand is that this is what they're being told to teach. Because I guarantee it. I know if you could teach a class or you could teach an entire school the way you wanted to teach them, it would probably be completely different from how you're supposed to teach curriculum. But
And in the US, it's different a little bit than Canada. Like I know in the US, you have the Common Core and the younger
oh, that's right. I keep
a lot
forgetting
of
you're in
fun
a
stuff.
different country.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of differences, as close as we are. Um, so yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. I love teaching. I love it. I love the freedom that I have, in
Right.
terms of how I
So, I
express.
mean, scratch a little bit with what I said because it could be completely different over in Canada. I have no idea how it is over there.
Yeah,
I'm speaking from perspective of an American.
yeah,
So, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, real quick, like, what is it like over there in Canada? How is it like in terms of the school system?
To be honest, it would be very similar to a lot of the stuff that would be. It would be very similar to a school. The school that I taught in the Caribbean was a mix of students from Canada, students from the U.S., and international students from Europe and Asia. India was a big population there. Like, there's a lot of really interesting, diverse people. Um, one of the benefits that I had was I got to teach with a lot of American teachers, and kind of able to. They opened my eyes to a couple things that happens in the U.S. school system, and then at the same time, while teaching in the Caribbean, we exchanged ideas back and forth. Another valuable experience for me was I got to see another um, education. I did my student internship in Australia, and that was a really valuable situation for me too. So just kind of to see the differences in those four education systems has really been valuable to me as a young teacher, especially. Um, but yeah, I love teaching. I love kind of the challenge of taking whatever you have to teach, whatever the topic is, and just kind of making it come alive and doing your best to make those real life, real world connections for your students. There are a lot of parallels. There'd be a lot of similarities too in terms of um, the American and Canadian education system. Um, but I have a lot of freedom in what I can do and how I can express it, which I'm thankful for.
That's awesome. I think I've heard that from a lot of um, people who teach in different countries, is that they're saying it's very, very different from the American way of the American system, like the educational system. And one key thing I've heard is that I have a lot of freedom.
Hmm.
So I think it's definitely open. But something you express is that you want to start teaching. You would love to start expressing and teaching, more life skills, people skills, and stuff like that. So that's awesome. Because believe it or not, a lot of people, and especially kids, don't know a lot of life skills. I learned all mine fairly recent, within the past 2, 3 years,
Mhm.
just from studying myself. And I definitely think it would have been a lot more helpful if I learned from someone like yourself, who is in the role of being a teacher, where you are a very high influence. Are you a high school teacher?
Yeah, high school. Yeah,
So
important
for
time in people's life.
four,
Sure.
4 years of someone's life, these 4 years are very life changing and impactful on these kids. So I think something like people skills, financial literacy, financial education, um, how to survive in the real life, how to survive in the real world will definitely be beneficial.
Yeah, and like I said before about like the freedom that I have, like I got into this whole YouTube thing by starting a YouTube channel for my students, and I have a YouTube channel that I do a lot of teaching through. They watch the video for homework rather than doing homework, and then we practice those skills. They do their homework in class. It's called the flipped classroom. So instead of doing the learning in the classroom, the practice outside, we flip it. They learn outside the classroom by watching one of my videos, and they practice in the classroom when they can get help and work with each other and things like that.
Nice.
So I like that stuff, and I made a rap video, a science rap video. So there's so many things you can do to have fun with it and kind of just get people interested, get students interested in science and math and whatever subject you're teaching. If you just look for those opportunities.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's super creative. I don't know if you know Zach over on the ThinkShare channel.
No, haven't checked it out. Think share.
Yep, ThinkShare.
Okay.
So Zach is a teacher as well. I think he's probably 27 or 28, same age as you, and he does the same thing. He does remixes of videos and implements them into what sort of like a teaching way.
Yep.
And fairly recently, his channel has blown up, and
Did you
he.
did you do a
Huh?
Jake Paul song?
I don't think so.
No. Okay.
No, fairly recently, his channel blew up, and he has a lot of people who he's taught. A lot of his students follow him and stuff like that. So he gives it's sort of similar to your channel, where he gives life advice. He does he talks about being, the greatest version of yourself and everything like that. So definitely check
All right.
Zach's channel out. You guys should definitely connect, because he's a teacher, you're a teacher, and I think you guys could have an awesome conversation. He does a video every single day,
Mhm.
so I think you guys would definitely like connecting with each other, and you guys could do some awesome stuff together.
Appreciate that. I'm writing that down after. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. Um, Top 3 to 5 mentors.
Hmm. Yes. So, I mean, I'd have to say that my family has been a huge influence, if you want to use that word, maybe, and my family as a whole. Um, Everyone from my parents to my grandparents to uncles and aunts, and people that aren't family that are family. Those would definitely be um, an immediate huge influence on me, mentors for me. Um, Looking at individual people, that's something that I'm really trying to figure out right now, if I'm going to be honest with you, in terms of personal, real world mentors. Um, I'm going through that. I've thought about it a lot lately. I've always had one person in particular who I've kind of run business ideas through and run bigger ideas through, because his knowledge is extremely valuable to that world that he's been very successful in. Um, I'm looking at getting connected in in the nearest city to me. In August, I'm attending one of somebody's workshop called Speaking for Influence and Income. Just kind of looking at speaking tactics and things like that. And I don't know what else. But that's an interesting way for me to get connected, because for me, and why I've talked about that, I'm really interested in getting my kind of establishing a few mentors, because I was away for a few years, just kind of returned back to Canada within the last couple of years. But all my friends and all of like the people that I would hang out with and talk about things, they've all moved away since we finished university. So I'm really kind of in the in between stage right now, other than my family, other than this one person who I've told you about. Have to say I'm looking for a few key others um, to kind of fill in that. Um, I have a few good friends that we still stay in touch. I made a post about that this week. I was able to go up earlier or last week, sorry, and just go hang out with a really good friend of mine. And we were able to, one of the things we did was we went for a big 2 hour run from the city out to the ocean as it was getting dark. And we hit the ocean like right at dark when it was getting dark. And so we hopped in the ocean. But throughout that run, we were able to go through things and talk to each other and catch up. He's married and he has a little baby, so we're not able to spend a lot of time together. But as a mentor, he would definitely be one. Just kind of catch up, go through, encourage each other, and just talk about those important things that you need to talk about with somebody. But like online, I'd have to say like there are definitely some mentors that I look to for business or media things. People that I love to follow would be Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a great person. Project Life Mastery on YouTube, named Stefan. Uh,
Yeah, nice.
yeah, he's a Canadian guy from on the other coast that's just recently relocated to Panama. He's got a lot of stuff, and I'd say that I'd kind of eventually try to do some very similar content to him. I really, really like his stuff. It's very practical. He's very knowledgeable in terms of what he does for sure. He's definitely somebody else that I really kind of key in on when I see his video or something pop up from him. I really go focus towards that. Um, yeah, so those are some of the mentors slash influences that I have and I look to um, daily, daily, really.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good.
I like how you said you get a lot of influence from your family, which is probably the people you spend the most time around,
Hmm.
and probably has the biggest influence on you. So to see that your family has an impact on you and you're the the person you are right now just goes to show like you come from a great family and you're becoming a great person, and what you're learning from your family, what you're learning from other mentors, you're able to express that with your community on Instagram, through your podcast, on your YouTube channel, whatever it is. So it goes to show of an how much of an impact your influence in your environment has on you.
Right. Yeah, I definitely echo that exactly what you said there.
I already asked you about the books. So this will be my last question.
Right.
And I think I asked, they're kind of similar, but I asked this question to everyone I interview is If you had to drop everything and only do one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
You saved the hardest one for last. If I had to drop everything and do something for the rest of my life, without a doubt, I mean, it wouldn't be working out or training for a certain triathlon or um, even my job. I mean, a quote that I really like, and it's funny that I run an Instagram page largely with quotes and other stuff. But I used to hate quotes. I used to hate quotes because people would see a quote, they'd like it on Facebook or whatever like that, but then there'd be no action, there'd be no practical taking what that quote is talking about and putting it into their lives. And I just saw that from people, and I'm just like, oh, quotes are stupid. But now what I'm doing is challenging myself to take the quote and live it out in my life. So I've really stepped up. But a quote that I have always really liked is, "Do you live to work or work to live?" Right. So I mean, uh, I work to live, because you can see that we're in the fact that your profession is your focus. Your profession is your be all end all. As much as I love my job, I don't think that that's how life should be lived. I work so that I can do things. I work so that I can provide for my family. I work so that whatever, I can go on a trip, or get married, or do whatever, right? So for me, it really, family is my priority. Uh, Family in terms of my immediate family, family for when I get married, and family for after that. Um, I believe that kind of in the craziness of life, like that is an important foundation for my life for sure. If I look to find purpose in my job, um, that can be hard sometimes. If I look to find purpose in kind of how I look or something like that, that can be hard sometimes. I believe there's a greater purpose to our lives than that's just tied up in things. There's a bigger calling for our lives, I believe, and I believe that family is one of the ways to really uh, discover that purpose, and why we're here on Earth.
Yeah, that's awesome. I it's cool to hear that, because every time I ask this question, it's always something different, and which I'm not surprised about. But I always love hearing what someone has to say when I ask them that question. And I wasn't expecting you to say family,
Mm,
but again, like I said, it's just always something different, and it always opens my eyes up to a different perspective. Whereas someone's end all be all, if they had to drop everything and do one thing, would be their health. Someone's would be to become financially free, or to build a legacy, or to serve others, or to play a sport. And something new from you is, making sure your family is well and healthy. And that definitely has opened my eyes up to a new perspective. It's definitely directing my focus and my attention in a direction I want to pay attention more towards. So, hey, man, thanks for that. Definitely for opening my eyes up, opening my mind up a little more, and shifting my perspective to something new. I appreciate it.
Appreciate that. Like, life's all about relationships of so many
Right.
types, and there's just so much value in those relationships. So that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, even personally, in the past little bit too.
Right. You got some comments here in the chat from Rose Simplicity says, even if you don't come from the greatest family background, you could always learn lessons from observing their actions and use it to your advantage of your own growth in life. And then she also says, I agree. Too many people attach themselves to their career or define themselves by external things.
Mm. Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that comment. Yeah, there's always a lesson to be learned in the good situations or the bad situations. in the situations that are just every day, or the situations that are like those one-time huge occasions. And it's just we have to be open to learning those lessons and recognizing them, because sometimes you don't recognize them right away. And then like I said about the book that I was reading, the five love languages, like I was reading through it, and like you'd read something and it's like, whoa, the world makes so much sense now. It
Right.
like tying it back to whatever instance you want to talk about, it's just like boom, this and that, and you're connecting the dots, and it's like necessarily maybe I didn't learn that lesson at the time, but in the future, whatever lesson you're talking about, whether it's a simple lesson, or it's a bigger, more complicated one, like you're going to learn those lessons if you're open to it. And you might not be open to it initially, but eventually you might learn the lesson. Again, timing is important. You need to be able at the right place and the right time in order to learn those lessons and act on them. Again,
Right.
it's a little bit more of an off-topic thing there, but yeah,
Nice. And she also says, my family is definitely one of my number one priorities.
great.
Family is important.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. Thank you very much for adding that comment.
All right, guys, that will be the end of our interview. Matt, I want to keep you on the call so we can call and talk a little bit and settle down after the stream.
Sure.
But hey, for everyone who's here watching, or anyone watching the replay, thank you so much for watching, for tuning in, and staying this long with me and Matt. I hope you got to understand who Matt is more as a person, what he's doing, what he plans on doing. And I hope you can follow him on his journey. You know, he's posting daily on Instagram, posting weekly on YouTube, and just sharing amazing information, amazing knowledge from people he's learned, from information that he's learned from others, and information that he's developed from his own perspective and his own way of learning. So this is definitely a new mind you can learn from, a new amazing soul that can give you a better perspective on life and can help you grow to your next level on your journey, whatever it is. So if you haven't already, make sure to follow Matt on Instagram. It's the link in the description, and subscribe to his channel. The first two links in the description. I want you guys to go over and do that right now. Subscribe to his channel, follow him on Instagram. You can also find his podcast on Apple Music, Google Music, did you say it was?
Yep.
Apple Music, Google Music, Spotify, Anchor. It is called the Greatness Everyday Podcast. So make sure to go follow that podcast. He's got thousands and thousands of people listening in on his podcast. And make sure to go listen to that if you're on the road, cleaning, working out, whatever it is, because you will not regret it. So make sure to follow him on his social medias. And again, thank you guys for tuning in and watching. If you're new to Ty Speaks, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more interviews, for more life-changing videos just like these. Leave a like if you liked it, and leave a comment down below and let me know, what do you think about Matt? What's the most important lesson that you have learned from him in this video? And as always, stay on point. Actually, Matt, I want you to say goodbye before I end it. Go ahead.
All right. Just want to say thank you to Ty for having me here. It was really good to connect and finally make this interview happen. I always learn about a lot about myself when I do something like this. I've done a couple, not a lot, but you've taught me a lot. The comments and stuff like that have taught me a lot, which I'm very thankful for. Appreciate everybody for just tuning in, whether you're here for long or short, and you'll see Ty next time on his YouTube channel.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And as always, stay on point in this peacefully chaotic world. We'll catch you later.